Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Movie Man Beyond. Today we're going to be looking at my personal favourite top 10 Sylvester Stallone movies. So without further ado, let's do it! Coming in at number 10 is Creed 1 and 2. Yes, I know he's not the main character in these movies, but with him not being the main character, he does an absolute superb job as supporting character for Michael B. Jordan, Adonis Creed, and I just feel like all his lines were written by himself. Stallone had full creative control of the character, and it's so great to see Rocky in that way of like a trainer. And to be honest, in Creed 2 there's parts of Creed 2 where it like really like sort of got to me a couple of times, especially with Rocky sort of telling Adonis it's all you now, I'm done with it sort of thing, sort of passing of the torch. Also like how the end Rocky goes and visits his son and sees his grandson for the first time. So yeah, Creed 1 and 2, I know I'm cheating, I also do this with another two movies later on in the list, so forgive me. So yes, that was my top 10. That was my number 10. Fuck. Number 9, we have Rambo Last Blood. I thought this was sort of a fitting end to Rambo. It was a straight up balls to the wall action movie, 90-minute blast. And you know, Rambo's where we'll find him at the end of John Rambo, or just Rambo, as he's working on not working, but he's living on a ranch, and you know, he's retired. Though he still does have some weird tendencies, like he does have an underground connection of caves and tunnels that remind him of Vietnam, and so it's just his way of dealing with it, I suppose. A young girl he cares about gets kidnapped in Mexico, so he crosses the border to get her back. It ends up going south very quickly. He gets beaten within an inch of his life. So then he just goes absolutely mental and ends up going John Rambo basically. And then they've come over to the border, you know, the girl dies, sorry for spoilers. He ends up going back, killing the main guy's brother, coming back over to the border in Texas, and then I think it's Texas, and then he prepares loads of traps and stuff, and it's a bit like Home Alone but for adults. It's great, really good. Yeah. Next on the list we have Cobra, a cult classic from the 80s. Excuse me. He's a cop, but it's like a different time in America, and it's a lot of crime. And what does he say? Crime is a disease, and I'm the cure. Great opening. Great call, great villain. This is a classic 80s movie. It's, you know, there is movies that I could replace it with, but I think for nostalgia reasons it's on my list at that point. So, you know, it is what it is. Next up is a film I've just watched in 4K recently, Cliffhanger. It's got a bit more feeling to this one. Obviously, you know, he feels guilty at the start by the woman dying, he couldn't save her, and you know, he's retired from mountain rescue, and he ends up getting pulled back in due to criminals, and they're losing money, and you know, they start holding people hostage, and he has to go and help them, and it's like I say, it's a very good sort of action adventure. You know, Stallone's not like this trained fighter, he's just a mountain climber. He just gets his ass kicked a few times, but there's a lot of good set pieces, and Stallone's actually really good in the movie. He's believable. So Michael Rooker's also in the movie. He's cool as well. And of course John Lithgow with his posh accent. He talks like that. Yeah, really good movie and a good villain. Next up is Assassins. That might surprise some people. The storyline is that Stallone is a hitman, and he's about to, make a hit at a funeral, and then another guy makes the hit instead, and it's Antonio Banderas, who is this upcoming hitman, and Stallone and him nearly shoot each other during this sequence. And then you find out that the agency is sort of screwing Stallone over for this younger guy, and it's all like a cat and mouse game. It's really good. Antonio Banderas, to be honest, absolutely kills it. He's sort of a show stealer at a point, and it just really good. Probably underrated. Probably doesn't get as much love as the Rockies, the Rambos, and that kind of thing. But I really personally enjoy it. Next up is First Blood, the very first Rambo movie. If you weren't familiar, John Rambo, veteran from the Vietnam War, ends up in this little small town in North America, and the sheriff's a bit of a dick. He doesn't want his type in his town. Stallone's like, I just want a meal and a place to rest my head and maybe a shower. And the guy's like, nah, turn around and walk back to wherever he came from. But Stallone's like, well, why? Why can't I not just, I'm not bothering anybody. The cops is a dickhead and treats Stallone like a piece of shit. So Stallone's like, nah, fuck yeah, I'm just going to keep walking into town. And then the guy ends up arresting Stallone, and when they're given, they're treating Stallone pretty bad in the jail, he starts getting flashbacks of Vietnam. And then he just snaps and he escapes on a motorbike on the run into the sort of the mountains. That's once again a hell of a cat and mouse game, and the book and the original ending, John Rambo kills himself. I'm glad they didn't keep that in this movie, but it's it was pretty a dark time in America as well, because of the way they used to treat the veterans. Not the people, but it wasn't their fault. The government sent them there, sort of thing. And it was just highlighting the fact that this guy, he was fucked up from the Vietnam War, and that's why he says, don't push me because I'll give you a war you won't believe. And he does. He does. He's killing them. He's hiding out in mountains. He's dropping down on them. They're trying to blow him up. He ends up just taking over this armory and the town, and just ends up blowing the shit out of loads of things. And it actually takes his colonel, his mentor, to calm him down and stop it. He ends up getting arrested at the end. Obviously, it leads into the sequels. He gets a full pardon and stuff, but it's just one of those things. Really great movie. So yeah, that was number 4. That was number 5. Excuse me. At number 4, I'm going to cheat again. We have Rocky 3 and 4. Probably I say this because the Rocky movies do tend to just continue on from each other. So Rocky 3, Rocky 4, great soundtracks, great villains, Clubber Lang, Ivan Drago. You've got Apollo Creed as his mentor. A lot of high stakes. Rocky 3, he's getting above himself. He's not a champion anymore. Mick, his trainer, dies. Mick's telling him to get away from all the lights and the entertainment side of it, and just get to a gym and just train. That's ending getting beat off Clubber Lang. And then Apollo Creed says, you used to have the eye of the tiger, you've lost it, and obviously all that, the montage. And then Rocky wins and becomes a champion again. Then Rocky 4, Apollo Creed gets killed by fighting Ivan Drago, Dolph Lundgren, and it's sort of more of just a quicker tale of Rocky getting revenge, and so yeah, I mean, they're both really highly enjoyable, and I know people would say Rocky 1 or 2, which are both great films as well, but for me personally, as the continuation on of those movies, I think 3 and 4 are by far, for me, the most enjoyable. Now on to number 3, Demolition Man. I love Demolition Man. I always think it gets shit on. It's not really classed as a very popular Stallone movie. I don't really feel people will mention it enough. Wesley Snipes as the villain is absolutely classic, and to be honest, what's going on in society and today is like reflected in Demolition Man, which is hilarious. Demolition Man, I think, is in '95 in the movie, but then it fast forwards when they get frozen, and it's so hilarious how the time has sort of reflected what's went on here. Obviously, not the outfits and stuff like that, but the way people are not even allowed to swear, they get fined. It's sort of like that now online. You can't say certain things, and you can even get arrested for saying stuff now online for having an opinion or whatever. The seashells stuff for, I'm assuming, wiping your ass is funny, and it's like, greetings and salutations, and how may we help you? It's like, oh god. No wonder Wesley Snipes was having a ball in that movie. He's great as Simon. Brilliant. So Demolition Man, great. I wish they'd release like a better version of that. I'd want to see like a collector's edition or something, but it is what it is. Number 2 is Rambo from 2008-2009. This is so gritty and realistic, and just shows like the horrors, and the gore is immense. There's 2 cuts of this movie. I do prefer this is the director's cut. It has a lot more of John Rambo speaking as opposed to being a mute for most of the movie. I remember when I first saw the trailer for this, I was blown away. Like when he just rips the guy's throat out and he's blowing the guy away in the Jeep, and his bits of body flying all over. To be honest, I don't think I've seen an action movie quite as gory and realistic as that. I mean, the machete with the guy at the end is cutting open his stomach and it's just splurting all over. And you don't see the first glimpses of John Rambo being Rambo until he's taking the aid workers over on the little boat. They kill the lights, and then the pirates come over, and then they're gonna like sort of rape the woman, and then he just boom, 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 blows them all away. And then the guy tries to give him a lecture about, who are you to tell us what to do, and then he's just fucking grabs the guy by the throat and just, who are you? Who are any of you? And he just says those lines, and I'm just like, fucking hell, you don't want to mess with this guy. Yeah, really tremendous work from Stallone to even bring back a character so many years later and to make it work like he did. And for me, the better film out of the Rambo films. So yeah, even if they had ended it at Rambo, that would have been fine. So moving on to number 1 is Rocky Balboa. I think the story of, can I still do it? At my age, can I still go the distance? And not just in sport, boxing, but in life. Rocky has a lot of great dialogue moments in this, and he's not rich. He's lost his wife to cancer. He's got a strange relationship with his son. He owns a little Italian restaurant. He lives in a little apartment in Philly, where he's from. So he hasn't been handed everything. He's got no money, and he's Paulie's still there, and Paulie's an alcoholic. And there's just great little moments between him and Paulie, and when they mention Adrian passing away, and Rocky giving him the speech to his son about, that's what cowards do, and swirls and sunshines and rainbows. And even going at the end when he goes the distance with Mason Dixon. Is it Mason Dixon? I don't know Mason Dixon line, but I think it is Mason Dixon. And I like how they kept it at that end, even though he got beat. They did have an alternate ending where he did win, but it's still better that he got beat, but he still went the distance. And that's what he says at the end, where he's like, he sort of talks to Adrian, he's like, well, Adrian, we did it. And then I always remember listening to the commentary where he says, he waves at the end, was meant to be Rocky waving to the audience, and he disappears. And I remember watching, because at the end of it, certain way through the credits, there's a scene of Stallone standing on the steps in the middle of winter. It's like dark out, and you just looking across Philadelphia, sort of taking it all in. For me, movie-wise, I just think it's the most probably emotional range that Stallone's ever used. And once again, bringing back a character from, a lot of people hate Rocky 5 because it is the weakest of the franchise. I don't mind it, I don't hate it. But to then bring Rocky Balboa back like he did with Rambo a couple of years later, and made them relevant and prove that he wasn't just done, was tremendous. And Schwarzenegger couldn't do it with his characters. He's tried to bring Donnell back a couple of times now, it doesn't work. And it just showed to me that, for me personally, Stallone is the better actor. He's got a better range than all Schwarzenegger has or ever will have. And he sent his characters off, well, Rocky and Rambo, on, a high point. And like I say, what more can I say about that film? I just think it is, he's for me, to watch Stallone, I think, if you watch Rocky Balboa, you don't even necessarily have to watch the other movies, but, because they do sort of give you snippets of the rest, but it's a very grounded story, and it's not like the music and the 80s, and it's very like a story of an old boxer who had his heyday and just wants to know, can he still do it? And he still does. He goes the distance, doesn't win, but he still hangs in there for 12 rounds. And it's just a life lesson for us all, I guess. So yeah, guys, that was my Stallone top 10. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next one. See you later, guys.